Afternoon, everyone. Nice to see some people that I've seen before. Thank you ever so much for coming back. It's just brilliant. You know, taking big, bold, brave steps, stepping into a different world, a different place, could be the beginning of something really big. And I just really appreciate people taking time out of their days. This one is, what on earth is mindfulness? Now, we'll do a whole bunch of stuff on mindfulness, and I promise none of it will be too onerous. First of all, who am I? Who do I work for? My name's Ed Roberts. I'm based in Norfolk. I work for a charity called Men's Craft. Men's Craft have been around for quite a while in Norfolk. Started off in Norwich, looking to support men and boys with a whole range of mental health and physical health issues. It really is about happier, healthier men making for better uncles, brothers, partners, colleagues, friends, and that's a really, really important thing. The work that I specifically do, and I've been doing for almost 3 years, is working as something called a prevention and positive activities coordinator. Now that means that men who are beginning to think about suicide, so having suicidal ideation, are beginning to think about suicide, are referred to us if they disclose to a health professional, say a GP or a social worker or community mental health team. And we can offer a range of support which is based around positive activities. We can do lots of listening, lots of talking, phone conversations, but it's about signposting. It's about getting people from where they are now to where they want to be. Because in my own personal experience of having mental health issues, I didn't really know what to do. I didn't like where I was and didn't really have a clue of how to get out of it. And so the response to that is maybe in a very small way, coming to a talk like this or being around other people. First thing, I said some things wouldn't be too onerous, but maybe this one will be. I want you to breathe in and out 3 times. What I want you to do, breathe in through the nose, out through the mouth. I want you to breathe in through the nose when I say so until you can't breathe in anymore. And then it's almost like a swinging backwards and forwards. You'll have to breathe out. And then I want you to breathe out until you can't breathe out anymore. Then you're going to have to breathe in again because you're going to keep breathing out. And then that second breath, do the same thing, in and then out. First one, you really don't want to do. The second one, you really, really don't want to do. The third one's annoying because you can see that it's a good thing and it's quite nice. Everybody ready? First one. There's something that happens around my ears. I don't know about you, but I can feel it sort of going, something that happens in my neck and my shoulders that makes me go, I feel a little bit calmer. It's not changed my world. It's not changed my world view. It's not made me want to be a better person, but actually it's made me feel calm. Before this, I had all sorts of little niggly anxiety issues. I've got to talk in front of people. I've got to make sure I've got all my notes ready. Put into practice some of the things that I've learned through my own recovery. First one, first breath, you really don't want to do it because you're actually thinking about needing to support yourself. The second breath is you putting down boundaries and saying, yeah, this is a good thing to do. And the third one is kind of a tricky one because you're accepting that you're a vulnerable human being and actually taking care of yourself is a good thing to do. 1, 2, 3, 3 breaths. That's it. It's a really nice exercise. Maybe we'll come back to it later. Mindfulness isn't necessarily an app or something you get sold or a course that you go on. Maybe it is to a bit, like a little percentage, but what is it? Is it sitting quietly? Is it eating muesli? Is it looking smug? Is it being a vegan? Is it doing yoga in lycra, which is far too small? Is it meditating with candles on and incense? Is it running, or is it swimming, or is it breathing slowly? Yeah, it's got to be breathing slowly because we've already done that bit. Yeah, all of this is mindfulness. Is it or isn't? I don't know. I'm a bit confused. So with that knowledge, what do we do next? Where do we go? Now, it can be argued that all of those things are examples of mindfulness, but I always worry and question sort of purchasable video or audio sound bites, and I don't really think that that covers what mindfulness is really about. My personal journey, like I spoke about before, is one of failing to take care of myself and then having to work hard at finding my own supportive environment. Now, maybe mindfulness is about having a supportive environment internally for myself and externally for my family, my friends, my colleagues, the people that I work with, the clients that I support. But there are things that we know. Life is chaotic. Life is chaotic. We cannot challenge that statement. And we all mess things up from time to time. I can't challenge that statement. Ask my kids, ask my wife, ask my work colleagues. I mess things up all the time. Now, when I talk about internal chatter or self-talk, this can sometimes be a positive or a negative experience, and my reactions to chaotic life situations or me making mistakes will have an effect on my internal self-talk, my internal chatter. Now, this can produce good things, and it can also produce not so good things, but they're worthy of note. It's worthy of being remarked upon. It's worthy of using to reflect on. Sometimes it's traumatic or life-changing events. Sometimes it's liminal stages. What do I mean by a liminal stage? It's going through a door, a liminal. You know, there might be some builders out there that know about that sort of stuff, but liminality is moving from one stage to another. Often they're irreversible stages, like being born or going through puberty or becoming married. Once you're married, you can get divorced, but you will have been someone that's been married. And then things like dying, grieving, all of these are things that we have to be mindful about, but often we put them to one side. We're not necessarily willing or wholehearted about taking on positive experiences, let alone negative experiences. Right. This is what I call my camping story. It's a true story. My kids are now old. I know I don't look old enough to have old kids. My youngest is 19, I think, and he left home for the second time recently. When they were little, my kids, I like taking them camping, and every year we go to the same place, and there'd be a little bit of woods where you could build a little fire. It was lovely. And we take some hot chocolate, marshmallows, build a little fire, cook up some boiling water, make some hot chocolate. Lovely. One year, I was infuriated and went down to go and do this lovely little thing. Just we do it every time we go camping. Just like one night we go down, stay up late, have a hot chocolate around the campfire, and there was just bottles, beers, cans, old fag packets everywhere. It's like some teenage devastation. A party bomb had gone off, I guess. And I was really, really upset. I was infuriated because I wanted to do something, but I couldn't do it. Like, it was getting dark. I couldn't tidy up. I wasn't going to go and get a torch. My kids were about to go to bed. They were little, and this is what we do. And so I just was really upset. Went back to my tent, made my hot chocolate in the tent. They weren't all that impressed with that, but it was better than nothing. And the next day I went and spoke to the guy that owned the campsite. And I was like, oh, I'm really, really cross. Like, I'm you know, frankly, I'm really pissed off about this. And I sort of said, you know, I got there and there's empty, there's like cider bottles, there's a vodka bottle, there's like a broken bit of glass, some cans of beer. I just felt really, really annoyed. And what he said sort of blew my mind. He didn't say, don't worry about it. He said, what did you want to happen? And I said, well, I wanted to go and have a hot chocolate with my kids. And he's like, yeah, you can make that happen. Just going to make it happen today. And I was like, yeah, but I'm going to have to tidy up all their rubbish. He's like, how old are you, Ed? You're like, you're in your 30s. Maybe I was in my late 20s. You know that sometimes you have to tidy up after other people. Other people make a mess. Life is chaotic. And I was like, so what are you angry about? You're angry because you couldn't do something nice. That's a pretty nice thing to be angry about. And I kept trying to go, yeah, but it's someone else's fault. Someone else needs to. And he's like, no, they don't. If you want to do something really nice, go and do something really nice. That sounds beautiful. That sounds like a really, really wonderful thing to do. Go and tidy up. If it's still rubbish, pick up that broken glass. I'll come and help you if you want. Because, you know, maybe a whole bunch of kids will come down and have hot chocolate with you. Like, he was letting air out of my angry balloon. I kind of was almost annoyed at him for not getting it more. I felt like I was allowed to be angry, like I was allowed to have that. Someone had stopped me from doing something I wanted to do. But that happens all the time. And sometimes our natural reaction is just to get angry and to forget about the brilliant things that we're capable of. We're all brilliant. It's just sometimes we get hooked, kind of get snagged by emotions, and I want to blame other people. And that's a tricky thing. That's a tricky place to be. Life is chaotic, and it's okay to mess things up. I messed up there. And it's been a really, really huge learning point for me, because often I get to really, really similar stages where I go, this should be working and it's not. And then I remember this guy's voice in the back of my head. What is it that you want? What do you want it to look like? That's a pretty good problem to have. What things do you need to put in place? How do you change the environment? How do you make it so that people can really enjoy that space? Because that's a really good thing. So when we look at mindfulness, perhaps we're looking at a part of our routine where we step outside of our day-to-day and we spend time on ourselves. So here is a question, and you can either tell me over the Zoom call, or you can put it in chat. What do you do for yourself? What sort of things do you do to attend to your own needs? Examples for me is I like going for a dog walk. It's one of my favourite parts of the day. Nice and early in the morning, no one else is there. Kind of late in the evening, more people are there, but I don't mind that. And I do that for myself. I do it for my dog as well, but actually it's really for me. What about you lot? What do other people do? How do you attend to your needs? Let me know. Riding motorcycles, like the idea of that. Group exercise as well. That sounds amazing. I like a bit of exercise. Yeah, very cool. Got someone else who likes walking their dog, running, reading a book. So look, this is a nice thing. I'm not saying that motorcycles are hobbies. I'm not saying that exercise classes are hobbies. I'm not saying that reading a book is a hobby. But actually, they kind of equate. They're in the same environment. They're in the same sort of playing field as those things. And actually having something that we can go to that just, not instantly, but with a little bit of effort, makes us feel better is a really good thing. It's a really positive thing. In actual fact, it's a hugely beneficial thing. I work with a lot of guys that have just withdrawn. They've just stopped and they don't want to connect. They don't feel okay. And I think when we really go down into it, it's about them not feeling okay about being vulnerable in front of other people. And I remember that. I remember that myself. The issue of someone thinking that I was an idiot, or someone sort of shaming me or making me feel guilty. I couldn't get my head around it, and my mental health would kind of catastrophize, and I'd blow off and just be like, you don't understand me, I'm out of here. And I'd go into the garden, smoke a cigarette or something stupid like that. I was kind of giving myself excuses to do things I shouldn't really be doing. It's interesting. A lot of people are vulnerable all the time. My day-to-day life is being strong, being vulnerable, being kind to myself, being kind to other people, and expanding my horizons, expanding my boundaries of who I'm comfortable with letting in, who I'm comfortable with telling things to. And it's really, really important to not rush into that. You've got to feel calm, comfortable. You've got to find those people that you can connect with. I speak to a lot of people about use of helplines. Oh, I'm not going to phone anyone up, Ed. No, I'm never going to use a helpline. I'm like, you know that they're helpful. They're like, And just talking people into the idea of accessing different areas of support can be really, really tricky. But if we can change our behavior in a small way, like Lego bricks, each different bit of behavior change we put in place can just add to a wall, which can create a whole load of new strength for us, a whole load of new opportunity for us as well. Getting expert help, speaking to the GP, finding activities, using helplines, accepting that it's okay to be vulnerable. I'll come on to some stories as well, because often I get to this sort of stage in a talk and people go, yeah, but my dad, my uncle, my granddad, they weren't vulnerable. And I'd argue all day that they were. I'd argue all day that they had a really tough time of it. So what do you do for yourselves? People told me about walking, reading. Some people tell me about watching films, going to the cinema, playing sport, doing a hobby, socializing, leaving your ordinary surroundings, either physically or mentally. I think that's what we do to look after ourselves. And that's kind of interesting, because that is connected with this idea of going through a liminal stage. I do not wear football kit all the time, because I don't play football all the time. But when I want to play football, and if I take myself seriously enough to play at a professional or a semi-professional level, so I'm putting on the kit and putting on the studs and the shin pads, and I will put that stuff on. I will change my appearance. I will take myself out of one physical space and put myself into another. And we can do that mentally as well. We do it all the time. What do we do at Men's Craft? We support people in art activities. We support people playing games. I'm a big believer in playing. I'm a big believer that how we learn to do new things, how we learn to try out new behaviors, is by playing with different ideas. It's what kids do. It's what animals do. It's what we do. But because we have a heightened level of intelligence, slightly questionable if I apply that to myself, we can kind of convince ourselves out of it as well. That's interesting. There are different exercise things. We do free yoga sessions. I never thought that would work, but watching guys do yoga just makes me absolutely giggle. It's just brilliant. I really, really enjoy having that time each week just to spend some time doing stretches, bit of physical activity, bit of meditation, bit of relaxation. Now, some people say, well, yoga's mindfulness then. I don't know, yoga's yoga. If it was mindfulness, it would be called mindfulness. But maybe there are some attributes of mindfulness in that activity. Walk and talk groups. So a lot of people don't like this face-to-face thing. I would very rarely talk to people like this, staring right at them. No, not very nice. No one feels comfortable with that. And you can freeze frame that, Tom, hang it in your cellar, scare away the mice, all that sort of stuff. It's important to be able to be shoulder to shoulder with people. Some of the best conversations you're ever going to have are in a car. I quite like that. Some of the best conversations I have with my son are in the car, because he doesn't have to look at me. I don't have to look at him. And it all comes out. Some of the best conversations I have with some of the guys I work with is when we go out on walks, because we're both doing something, we're going somewhere. Sometimes people have mobility issues. You just limit the stage of your walk. I was with a guy today, and he's moved into a new supported housing area in Norwich. There's loads of sort of little communities I just didn't know anything about. And he didn't know where the laundrette was or the little community centre that they had was. And it was 3 minutes away from his house. And so last week we planned to do it. This week we went and did it. And he met a lady that runs the community centre, and he's going to go and play bingo on Friday. Job's a good one. But sometimes all it takes is that 5 minutes of time of being mindful about making a decision and then offering up a change of environment, offering up taking someone out of their normal surroundings, because those normal surroundings might not be very good for him. This guy's been stuck inside. He told me he doesn't leave the house apart from once a week, go shopping. I'm like, that's not okay. We need to do something about that. Didn't tell him he's got to get out. We just started talking about what different things he can do. Talk groups, a bit like this, but everyone talks. And some people go, no, I'd never do that. I think as a younger man, I used to see people do things like sharings and talk groups and just be really suspicious and like, no, not for me. Looks like a bunch of hippie nonsense, that. As I've got older, I've changed. I've maybe softened up a bit. Hearing other people's stories, hearing other people's, not necessarily woes, but hearing what people are going through. And not necessarily trying to fix them or go, oh yeah, I know how you feel. Just witnessing. And I really like that word, just witnessing. If men can see what other men are going through and not judge them, not criticize them, not try and fix them, because they're the things that we do which cause arguments with our partners. That's the trap that I used to fall into. Speak to my wife. Oh gosh, you've had a really tough day. I want to fix it. I don't want you to be upset. Actually, it's okay for people to be upset. I don't have to fix it. In actual fact, by trying to fix it and stop her from being upset, I'll make her more upset. Okay. So talking about these things, witnessing what other people say, how people communicate, how people view the world, how people view their own situations. That gives us knowledge and power. It enables us to see a broader horizon. Broader horizon. We talked about that earlier. Yeah. I really like what you're saying. Yeah, that sounds really exciting. That sounds like a really interesting place to be. We've got to challenge that. I think the easiest way for me to talk about that is when someone first told me about female image issues, magazines, TV representations, idealized forms of beauty. So physical things, you've got to be tall, you've got to be thin, you've got to be blonde, you've got to be blue eyes, you've got to be beach ready. I don't know anyone like that. And it's like, what? And we get sold these ideas. The brain likes looking at nice things. The brain likes looking at symmetrical things. People with symmetrical features are seen as more attractive. There's a whole bunch of science. Stephen Fry talks about it lots. I think we can apply the same set of rules to positive male identity. I really, I shy away from sort of toxic masculinity and positive masculinity. I think there's an issue around male psychology, which means that we get stuck in traps because we don't necessarily have the tools or the reference points to navigate things. I am rubbish at driving around streets that I don't know. That's the fact. Now that if my phone's run out of batteries and I don't have sat nav or a map, really rubbish. I just don't have any reference points. It makes sense. That makes rational sense. And the same thing goes with issues around male identity. If we don't have the opportunity to talk about things aren't going to change. There's a whole bunch in the media recently around the view of men, and it rapidly descends into men being perpetrators of crime, men being aggressive, men being sexually aggressive. There's stuff on the news in the last couple of days about people's drinks being spiked. And I thought it was quite progressive, because I heard one report saying it's not just men that spike other people's drinks. But most of it was, men do this thing, this is a horrible thing, men should sort it out. All it does is reinforce the fact that there's a thing that I'm not quite sure of. I don't have enough information on it, and I don't want to upset anybody by talking about things in out of turn or out of step. What do I do about it? Well, what I try and do about it is sit with other men and witness what they're saying and respect that they've got opinions and thoughts and feelings. Sometimes I talk to men and they are misogynistic, sexist, racist, ageist. I'm not going to change a lot of men's opinions, but I'm not going to not work with someone that's sexist. I'm going to challenge them. I'm going to say, that's a really sexist point of view you got there. You can't just say all women, blah, 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 or all people who are Portuguese, blah, 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 blah. That just doesn't make sense. And I will challenge it. I'll say, I'm not trying to attack you. I'm not trying to belittle you, but that's just not okay. It's 21st century. And we've got to start challenging ourselves. Not for a minute am I saying go out and challenge the next person you see being racist. Of course not. It's about choosing environments, choosing the battles. Some battles aren't worth fighting. I've had lovely conversations with people, and then they'll punctuate it at the end by saying something devastating, which completely rocks my world and makes me go, oh, I didn't understand this person at all. But then that links in with the whole idea of social media. If you are a royalist, you can be my friend. If you are a Tory, when you've got to hate people that support the Liberals. If you are pro-Brexit, if you are anti-vaxxer, it seems like there's only yes-no arguments. And I don't want to live in that world. I don't want to live in a world where people can't be friends or can't be kind to each other. I want a different viewpoint to you. I want to have lots of different viewpoints thrown at me, and I want to be confused, and I want to have time to figure it out. I want to know that life is chaotic and sometimes things are messy, because that's what life is like. And we get frightened. We get frightened or shamed into going, well, you can't think like that. Lots of people do think like that. So hang on, what are we doing about it? Well, we're not talking about it. And so there is a mindfulness aspect to talking, sitting. When we sit and do talk groups, confidentiality. What does confidentiality mean to you? Means, you know, what happens here stays here, maybe, or I'm not going to talk about something that I'm uncomfortable about, or I'm not going to share what someone's told me in confidence. Yeah, okay, that works. But we've got to abide by that. We've got to stand by that rule. The next rule that we ask people to be okay with is that silence is okay. If I give you 3 seconds silence, a lot of people are going to feel uncomfortable. It's quiet. Why isn't anyone talking? And we often associate sternness or people being angry with quietness. It's a thing that a lot of people had in their childhood. You know, oh, can't even speak to you right now. Oh gosh, okay, yeah. But actually silence is a really good thing. When we breathe in and out, we're allowing ourselves to be quiet. We're quietening ourselves down. We're enabling ourselves to make decisions in our best environment rather than in a chaotic environment. We're giving ourselves an opportunity to flourish. And that's a good thing. Question, men having to be strong, so dismissing anything seen as not strong, such as me time, asking for help, admitting that you need help. All the strongest men I know have me time, ask for help, and have admitted to me that they need help. In the job that I do, I have to look after myself. If I go into my job slightly with the flu or feeling, oh, you know, I had too many beers last night, oh, I can't really be bothered, someone will pick that up and someone will say, Ed, that's not okay. I actually don't ever want that to happen. I want to be okay with myself. I want to know that what I'm doing makes sense because I want to do it. I'm self-motivated. I went from a period of being very, very unself-motivated, kind of followed that path all the way through. And it's okay. In actual fact, I'm highly suspicious of people that seem strong all the time because generally they're fractured and crumbling underneath. People that put on that facade of, yeah, fine. No, I'm fine. We all know people like that. You're all right? Yeah, no, I'm fine. So how do we break that down? Well, we don't. If people don't want to talk and we don't have the environments in which to talk, there isn't a magic wand to go, oh, now you will talk to me. We just got to play with these new ideas. We've got to play with different environments. So like we said, if you're having issues talking to people, go for a walk with them, go for a drive with them. And the idea of admitting as well. Actually, we can change a lot of this statement. So it is strong to look after yourself. It's necessary. You know, I am strong because I look after myself really well. Last week, I was really, really ill. I stopped work 4.5 days. I hated it. I really like working. I got better. Came back to work, got on with my work. Saw someone today and he was like, you weren't here last week. Are you better? And I was like, yeah, completely better. Because if I'm not better, I'm not able to do my job. In actual fact, because I took that chunk of time off, I'm now absolutely ready. I'm not working at 50% or 60% of capacity. I'm working at 90 to 95% of capacity. I can do that because I gave myself some me time. Or maybe I just let myself be ill. Maybe I knew that being ill is my body going, actually, you need to regenerate. You need to stop and rest, and you need to feed yourself, and you need to drink lots of water, and maybe you need to sleep during the day. I know you hate that, Ed, but you can do it. Rest and recovery. I remember speaking to an amazing psychotherapist who talked about depression and deep rest. Resting deeply, depression, deep rest, depressed. You have to rest deeply. Depression takes it out of you. Depression is a huge strain on your body physically and on you mentally. And it is essential that people that suffer from depression rest deeply. And they do it in a positive, mindful way. Oh, went back into mindfulness. It's about choosing the environment that you thrive in. It's about giving yourself the best opportunity to take next steps, which then create more opportunities for yourself. People that are depressed, people that are suffering from anxiety, stress, various different disorders. Actually, having something to punctuate your day, having something to be mindful about is a really positive thing. So finding out about local support groups near you is, I believe, something that Tom and his team can help everybody with. And if there isn't one that suits you, I work with someone with, oh God, was it Hypermobility Syndrome. So I don't know if anyone knows about Hypermobility Syndrome. Like his arm will dislocate at the elbow and just go all floppy, and his shoulder will pop out of joint. And there wasn't a support group near him. And so he's in the process of looking at creating the support group. The nearest one, I think, is in Lincoln, funnily enough. And if what you want isn't there, then it's looking at ways of making it. And that links me on to another thing that I'm going to talk about later as well, which is in my recovery, I felt really held back. But through seeking help, admitting that I needed help, admitting that I was ill, admitting that I needed to recover, admitting that I needed rest. I did things, and I'll come to that in a bit. What else do we do? Walk and talk groups, drama groups, storytelling groups. What are storytelling groups? People have lost the art of telling a 5-minute story. Wow. When was the last time someone told you, not from a book, but from memory, a story in the same room? It's a wonderful experience. Kind of freaky when I first did it, but I like having the opportunity to have new experiences. I don't go to it all the time, but it's a monthly thing that's affiliated with Men's Craft here in Norfolk. It's a bunch of guys that like telling oral stories. And some of them can be amazing and just kind of makes you feel comforted and like a small child again. You're being told something, you're being entertained. That's a good thing. Not everyone's cup of tea. Fair enough. Other things that we do, we run things like camps. So there's like men-only camps, which can be quite intimidating. Very strange environment, being around just men. But can be a really positive experience with lots of different workshops, lots of different things that I've already talked about. We have woodland groups, guys that go and help out doing projects in local forest areas and things like that. We have history walks. So I believe everyone should know a historian. Knowing a historian has changed my life. Just being able to go somewhere with someone and they go, oh, have you noticed that window? I'm like, what's that window? No, I've never noticed that window before. What's that window all about? And them going, well, back in 1873, and then you're in a different world, finding out about Victorians and Tudors, or well, there are a whole bunch of guided walks that happen all over the country. They're to do with people, sort of age groups, environmental groups, history groups. There are photographic groups. There are whole bunches of reasons for people to get outside and just change their environment. All of this information is there. Actually, the process of stepping outside and doing something is about feeding ourselves spiritually, physically, mentally, emotionally, and that is a good thing. Other things that we do, so talking to schools. I've done stuff like this for teenagers, and it was quite odd. I used to be a teacher, and having not taught for over 10 years, it was quite weird being back in a sort of a Zoom environment where I'm doing mental health talks to boys. There's a huge issue around pornography. There's a huge issue around female rights. There's a huge issue around male identity. There's a huge issue around positive male role models. And if we're not choosing to be those people, then nothing's changing for these younger guys. Issues around drink and drugs and diet. And one of the things I didn't know about was eating disorders in young men. Huge problem. Body image. I just didn't know. I work with a couple of young men that work with eating disorder therapists. They have deep-rooted issues with regards to what they can and can't eat, linked back to traumatic experiences in their childhood. Who knew? Well, by finding out about these things, by having a knowledge of these things, by offering to support different areas, or by just attending to our own needs, we're actually then spreading the word just through our own actions. We're choosing to be a better person. We're choosing to support other people in a more caring way. Approach is often the key to success. That's what I know. Often it is the way we handle, say, passive situations. For example, driving. Anyone want to tell me the last time they got angry driving? I can tell you about 5 stories just off the top of my head. If you're anything like me, I have amazing internal dialogue when I'm driving, especially on my own. Sometimes it blurts out and I'm like, I don't know what it is about sitting in a vehicle that turns me into someone I don't know and I don't like very much. Often I go back to this fear or shame or guilt of being late. I'm stuck behind something. I'm going to be late. I'm going to be late. Someone's going to go, oh, Ed's late. He's that late guy. Oh, he's always late. What's the time? Oh, it's Ed. He's late. So the purpose of this ramble is so that I can tell you about rushing to somewhere and the sense of tension building as we realize we are or we could be late. We could let someone down. We could not be somewhere when we said we would be somewhere. Life is chaotic and it's okay to mess things up. Okay, that's all right. It's quite a long thing to remember to say when we're angry and beeping our horn at people that have forgotten how to drive. But sometimes there's nothing that we can do about being late in that exact moment. And then if I think about things rationally, what is the benefit of beating myself up? Talked about internal chatter earlier, talked about self-talk. Oh, you're going to be late. This is terrible. People are going to think badly of you. Oh, the shame, the guilt. Argh. But actually, if I'm late, that's not the end of the world. Rather than long things to say, you can just say only this. It's a great little mantra. What do I mean by a mantra? A thing that changes our state of mind. I used to have one called, but that's okay. Every time I had a negative rumination to do with my mental health, oh, Ed, you're never going to get a job again. You're never going to work again. You're never going to get money. That's okay. But that's okay. Because these thoughts, these controlling, ruminating thoughts, only have power if I let them have power. If I'm sat in my car and I'm panicking about being late, that's fine. Actually, all I've got to worry about is only this present moment. I've got to carry on driving in a sensible way. I've got to find a way of combating those negative thoughts, even though this feeling of not being able to succeed is potentially overwhelming me. As there's nothing I can do about being late, there's no benefit in beating myself up. Turn on the radio, listen to a song, sing a song. If you ever have the unfortunate thing of being sat next to me in the summertime, you will hear me singing at the top of my voice to the radio because it calms me down. I enjoy doing things like that because no one's going to go, Ed, stop singing in your own car. It helps me remain calm. Also, some people go, yeah, Ed, brilliant, fine. Yeah, you're late though. You're still going to get to where you get to late. What do you do about that then? Well, what I do about it is I go, oh, I'm really sorry. Thank you for waiting for me. I appreciate you waiting for me. I'm acknowledging that other people have been put out, but people know that people are going to be late all the time. Thanks for waiting for me. Right, let's get on with what we're going to do. Rather than, oh, I'm so sorry I'm late. Oh, and then I'm going to tumble over things and bring that energy of feeling angry and upset and annoyed and, oh, you won't believe what happens. There's some idiot cut me up on the roundabout and then then hay bale fell off the back of a, I could have. I'm not saying that you shouldn't be like that. I'm just saying that that has no value. That has no value to your continuation of your day in the way that you want it to continue. One thing that I really liked was when I read off all this list of stuff that Men's Craft do, I often try and do some things. So I went to a storytelling evening. That was pretty amazing. I think I even took one of my sons to one of them. That was pretty amazing. That was like a moment for me and him. Didn't do it again. You know, it wasn't some big world bonding moment, but it was an interesting thing to do. We stepped out of our environment, tried something different. Drama, though, I hate drama. And this is being recorded. I'm feeling confident enough to say and show my colleagues, you can include this, Tom. I don't hate it. I find it really challenging. I used to not like clowns at the circus. The people acting, theatre. Oh, just, I don't know. There's something that, I don't know. Maybe it's just me. But I did this men's mental health awareness thing about 2 years ago before COVID hit. And it was about male role models, fathers and sons, inability to communicate, positive communication. And it was a play created by about a dozen blokes, and I had to do a bit of acting in it. And this one guy, who's like a local theatre producer bloke, said, before you step on the stage, step off the stage and then step on it. And I was like, that doesn't make any sense. What are you talking about? You feel anxious before you step on the stage. Know that you feel anxious about it. Step off. Deal with that anxiety. Put yourself in the frame of mind of what you're about to do, and then step on. It's a great little acting trick. But why don't we all do that? 3 breaths. First one, you don't want to do. Second one, you really don't want to do. Third one is annoying because you can see the point. Everyone want to give it a go? First breath. In through the nose until you can't breathe in anymore. Even you, Steve. And breathing out. Second breath. Third breath. Feel calmer. I can make myself feel calmer in 3 breaths. I think probably you can too. Now, it's not always that simple. We can't always just go, oh, well, Ed's telling me to breathe in and out. But now you know it. Now you know that it actually physically has an effect. Use it. Is it mindfulness? Nah, of course it's not. Sort of, maybe a little bit. Yes, no. The process of being mindful is exactly that. What do you want to do? How are you going to make it happen? What's the next step? How are you going to deal with the anxiety along the way? How are you going to deal with other people criticizing you or trying to shame you or make you feel guilty? Or the whole world telling you that you're the wrong size, shape, make, too old, too young, too big, too fat, too skinny, too small, too... Don't need to worry about that. I just want to worry about what I think is important or what you think is important. I want to hear what's important to you. We might disagree. That's okay. We might agree. If everyone agrees, that's a bit tricky. Cinema club. It's another activity we do. We go and watch rubbish films. Why do you watch rubbish films, I hear you say? Because if we watch nice films, everyone goes, hey, Ed, that was a great film. Yeah, it was good. No conversation. Watch rubbish films. People go, oh, that was rubbish. Did you see that bit where the thing fell off and he was wearing the wrong jacket or he walked in backwards? You could still see the microphone at the top of this. Things that aren't all that great, help us. Help us discuss things, help us see things in a different way. And that's a really important thing. It's okay to pick things apart. It's okay to find fault in things. We all do anyway. It's part of our survival mechanism. Anxiety is part of our survival mechanism. Uncontrolled anxiety holds us back. But stress and anxiety, they're useful things in the right amounts. It gets you up, gets you going, makes you move, makes you make decisions. Too much makes you withdraw, stops you from doing stuff. So it's about putting yourself in correct environments and helping you change behaviors. Maybe that's what mindfulness is. Right, on to the next bit. So I've got a game for you. Hopefully the game will be fun because the game is called, oh, hang on. That's the bit, yes. The game is called How Mindful Is This? Now, you have to give me a score out of 10 in the chat if you wish. You don't have to. You can hold your fingers up if you wish, or you can say it out loud. It's kind of like a game show. And what I'm wanting you to do is rate things out of 10, 1 being not very mindful, 10 being very mindful. So first activity is sleeping. How mindful is sleeping? 1 not mindful at all the way up to 10 being very mindful. Oh, I got, no, well, hang on. Octopus fingers over there. Yeah, thanks, Steve. Very good. 10. Thank you very much, Matt. Yes, that was a number. That's what I was looking for. Was that 10 that you were showing me, Steve? Yes, 10. Yeah, thank you. Sleeping's really mindful. Tell me why. Why is sleeping mindful? So yeah, we got rest in the brain, helps the brain work correctly. Yeah, because you're in your thoughts. Yeah, thank you. Reduces stress because performance and awareness is improved. Yeah, totally agree. So actually, maybe it's not sleeping that is mindful, it's the need of sleep, or creating an environment where good sleep, what they call sleep hygiene, is a necessary thing. I generally don't drink coffee after 3 p.m. It makes me wee in the middle of the night. Too much information. Also, the caffeine keeps me up. Drinking alcohol, not that this is alcohol, this is water. Drinking alcohol late at night will disrupt your sleep patterns. It's not to say don't ever drink alcohol late at night, but we all know the effects of alcohol. Drinking too much, generally regarded as not very good for us. So sleep hygiene, nice bed. It's an amazing thing my nan told me. 2 things that you spend money on: shoes and bed. It's what you spend most of your time in. Wear good shoes, have a nice bed. I have a nice bed. I used to not have a nice bed, and now I have a really nice bed. I spend money on my bed. I have to listen to a podcast to help me go to sleep. I listen to things like white noise. Often I need to read before I go to sleep. The right pillows, the right temperature, the right density of duvet or blanket on me. Who knew all these things were important? But I've started becoming mindful about it, because I know that if I am sleep deprived, or I'm not having the sleep that I need, it has huge effect on me. First thing to go is my sense of humor. How you doing, Ed? Yeah, whatever. Not slept very well. Really grumpy. And so sleep is a really important thing. I think there might be something else in the chat. If you are able to sleep, yeah. Suffering from insomnia is a really tricky thing. Seeking help for that is really key. I have friends that have suffered from insomnia all of their life, and I feel for them. I really, really do. It's a very, very tricky area. But it's then looking at different ways that you can reduce brain activity, meditation, guided meditation. There's a whole bunch of stuff online which enables people to have time out. It's not sleep, but it is different types of workings. It enables different parts of your brain to become inactive. Relaxation, things like, yeah, going back to yoga, meditation. It's not sleep, but it activates in similar places. There's a technique as well, which I'll come on to later as well. Right, next question. So what about cooking? How mindful is cooking? Scale of 1 to 10. 1, not very mindful. 10, super mindful. 10, thank you very much, Steve. Sometimes cooking is a massive chore, but we are what we eat, or aren't we? I work with a lot of people that like eating beige things. Absolutely agree, Matt. Depends on what you're eating. Depends on what you're cooking. I only eat orange things. I only eat beige things. Jacket potatoes, beans, fish fingers, chicken nuggets. Anyone know people like that? Battered sausage. It's interesting. A colourful diet promotes good gut health. Good gut health has a huge correlation with good mental health. Making your body work the way it should work makes your brain work the way it should work, because your brain is part of your body. Often we have disassociation between what our body can do, especially when we're feeling mentally unwell, especially if we're feeling sleep deprived, and what our body can do. So our body is able to do something or not, and our brain is going, well, you should be able to do it. You must do it. You've got to be able to do this. Cooking and eating, well, won't necessarily stop people from feeling mentally unwell, but there's a really nice sort of metaphor. It's a bit like insulating an old house. I've got to fix the roof, got to lag the loft, got to change the windows, got to put draft excluders around the door, got to block up the chimneys, got to put that metal stuff behind the radiators, got to change the boiler. One of those things won't change the temperature in the house. But if I attend to maybe 5 or 6 of those things, you'll notice a 2 or 3 degree change. And that's a really good thing. But actually, sometimes we just want one thing. I just want to be better now. It doesn't work like that, unfortunately. We've got to do these things in order. We've got to do these things in a mindful way. So what on earth is mindfulness? Mindfulness is about choosing to do things because we know that they'll have a benefit to us. And it will help us. Bit of a chore, though. Ooh. Don't like having to do stuff. Don't like having to work hard. Don't like having to look after myself, let alone other people. Actually, the benefits of giving back are parts of the 5 ways to well-being. Give back. Once we've tended to our own needs, giving back is seen as a really important part of our well-being. Helping out other people, giving people your time, understanding what our limitations are, doing it in a boundaried, constructive, kind, caring way. Don't have to agree with people, don't have to become friends with people you don't want to be friends with, but giving your time, giving your curiosity sometimes to new situations, new environments is a really positive thing. Depends on what you're cooking. Yeah. Sometimes on Sunday, I'll have loads of things going off in my fridge. I don't know if anyone else has that. I will put on a podcast. They're amazing podcasts. I don't really like the radio because I like cutting out sort of news. I keep updated with the news by looking on my phone. I have an app which feeds in news, which I need to be aware of. I'm updated on things for the work that I do through my computer, through links and stuff like that. I don't necessarily listen to the news in the radio in the car or have it on News 24, rolling news. I just noticed that that's really bad for me. I don't need to be that aware of how terrible the world is. It's not to say that I shouldn't know, but even me, who's pretty much socially disconnected, somehow that news gets through to me. Someone will tell me, oh, did you hear that terrible news the other day? Or did you hear about that thing that happened? And there's always a terrible thing that's happening. And that is awful. But how much I choose to let that be part of my life, well, that's about me, my environment, and my boundaries. So, yeah, there is another aspect of what we're doing. Spending time with friends, drinking down the pub, washing up, mowing the lawn, gardening, hobbies, sports, quizzes, art, but activities, filling our time with things that feed us and help us grow. That's a good thing. Yeah, we got to do mundane things as well. We've got to go to work. You've got to do the 9 to 5, if that's the situation that you're in. Okay. But then it's about changing your situation. If you feel that the situation you're in isn't feeding you the way you want it to, you can then apply to learning courses, lifelong learning courses, adult learning courses. One of the activities also that I wanted to talk to you about is this amazing thing that someone taught me. It is breathing, but you have to breathe in 8 times. I won't make you do it. I'll just talk you through it. If you have issues around sleeping and around deconnecting the brain, there's a tapping activity. So you tap 8 times quickly and you breathe in and out. And then you tap 4 times and then you breathe in and out, but you're doing it slower. And then you tap 2 times. And each time you're doing it, you're tapping slower. And then you take one last breath. And this should take about 45 seconds to a minute. And in doing that, you're recreating, so they say, the sensation of being held and rocked as a child. It activates serotonin levels in your brain, and it engages positive areas of your brain which are receptive to sleep. Obviously, if people are suffering from insomnia, there are things blocking that reception. But it's a really interesting technique. I talk to lots of guys that go, yeah, but I'm looking at my phone when I go to bed. I'm checking my emails. I'm watching YouTube. I'm watching Sky Sports. Don't do that in the morning. Wake up half an hour early. Do that in the morning. When you go to bed, don't have a screen in front of you. Don't have a phone in your room. Charge your phone up in a different room. Improving that sleep hygiene means making different choices about what you're letting into your environment. And that's a really, really key thing. It's really, really important to make sure that there are things that you choose not to have. Just because it's convenient or instantaneous doesn't mean that it's good. Doesn't mean that it's useful for us. So the other thing with regards to mindfulness is things like stress containers. So stress containers are a really lovely idea. Could be a glass or a cup, and I've got to fix my car, or I've got to take my dog to the vet, or oh God, I've got no food in the house, I've got to pay a bill, oh, I've got one of them red letters, oh, I've got my mum's ill, and soon things are coming out. Because I'm stressed, I'm unable to deal with these things individually. All I can do is see that my ability to cope isn't there because there's too much going on. I've got to take one of those things out. Put down the stress. Breathe in, breathe out, be kind to myself, give yourself some time, and then deal with that one thing. This is still quite chaotic, a bit like driving a car with people cutting me up left, right, and centre, but I'm going to dip into it, take another thing out of it, put it down if I can. Maybe this is a week later, maybe this is a month later, maybe this is a day later, maybe this is an hour later. Then deal with that. When I'm ready, take something out. What people notice is that feeling, like that 3 breaths. There's a lightning. We're being mindful, we're choosing how to change our environment. Being mindful seems to be about promoting positive mental health and being kind to ourselves, not necessarily listening to ruminating voices or our own negative voices. It's a key thing. It's a key thing to continue practicing. I am not an expert. I am rubbish at it from time to time. Sometimes I am on point and I can be really good at it. But I will continue to practice it. Some things really upset me and I lose my rag. That's normal. But I don't necessarily want to give over to that. I am going to tell you about my great uncle. I was going to say about the war and about old people and people saying, well, our dads and our granddads and our great grandfathers and our great uncles, they had a pretty hard time. My great uncle, his story is pretty phenomenal. He was in what was Burma, and it was being invaded, I believe, by the Japanese, and he was getting his family out. And there was a expeditionary force that had to stay there, and the last plane with his family left, and it was shot down out of the sky, and his wife and his child died. That's awful. That's awful. He obviously had PTSD for years. He was a really sweet guy, though. He was really kind. He was really generous. And I didn't spend a huge amount of time with him. I didn't find out about this story until after he died. I spoke to his sister, my nan. I spoke to my mum about it. And some of the things they told me kind of really changed my opinion of people and changed my opinion of him, because he was an amazing guy. When he came home, he realized that something was wrong, and he channeled his energy into something. He liked building things, and he built tiny little steam trains, which worked. I don't know how he did it, because I am not technically minded, but he put himself in a new mindset. He allowed himself to be kind to himself, because he realized that allowed him to be kind to other people. He didn't want to snap at people. He realized that his reactions, that this undiagnosed PTSD, made him really upset and angry. So he enabled himself to be kind to other people. He came up with the whole thing about breathing in and out 3 times and then do something different. He also said, everyone is brilliant. Everyone is brilliant. Everyone is good at something. Sometimes the issue is that we just don't give ourselves that time to be brilliant. Breathing in and out. First one you don't want to do. Second one you really don't want to do. And the third one's annoying because it's making you calmer. We're changing our mindset. We're feeling more calm. We're feeling more in control. If we're more in control, we're more able to make positive decisions. Is this what being mindful is about? Well, it's about building in time to be mindful in a way that suits you. It's about sharing your joy. It's about sharing your passions. Generally, I don't like listening to people that obviously don't want to talk about things. They lack a passion. They lack an ability to share what they're into. Also, that ability to laugh at yourself. When I was mentally unwell, I really lost the ability to laugh at myself. I took myself way too seriously. Didn't want people to be near me or judge me or challenge me. I couldn't cope with it. And so I just shut them out, or I just leave at certain points. I wouldn't hang out with certain friends because I just found them too tricky. And that's awkward. It's not really what I wanted. But being able to laugh with others, being able to laugh at yourself, that was a huge movement for me. It kind of gives me time to see what makes me tick. It enables me to monitor my internal chatter, what I say to myself, how I motivate myself. And it allows me to question whether the motivational voices I've got are helpful, because sometimes they're really not. Sometimes I would talk to myself the way I would never ever speak to someone I didn't like. What would a good friend do in this situation? They always seem to land on their feet. We can emulate positive mindfulness techniques. Stay calm. Breathe in and out 3 times. Have boundaries. Listen to other people. Offer support to people on their own terms. We don't have a magic wand, but we do want tools that will help us next time, and tools that you can share with others. And so what are those tools? Be kind to yourself. Breathe. Find environments. Have boundaries that support you in doing what you want to do. I am yet to meet someone that is wholly and utterly horrid. I have faith in humanity, that we're kind people that want to do good things. Why can't we promote that? We have to change our environment. We have to give men environments where that can be the thing that we do. I don't see myself as any weaker in wanting that. People challenge me all the time going, yeah, that's what old women do. That's what, I don't know. I don't want to get into derogatory comments. I just find it really hard to sort of validate that sort of talk. But it's really key. One of the things I had massive hang-ups about in my recovery was playing. And I've talked a little bit about playing. And it's I really like playing games. I like playing board games. I like playing daft games. I like doing things that make people laugh. I like having a box which you can get out and play a game, it's got rules and it's over in an hour or something, and then I can put it away and I've had a laugh with someone. That's great. That sounds a bit like mindfulness. Anyway, I had big issues in wanting to do that. And so as part of sort of the therapeutic process I was going through, someone said, well, why don't you invite people over? And I had issues around people liking me or whether or not I still got friends. And oh, it was a really tricky time. But I made a few phone calls and people were like, yeah, that sounds like a great laugh. You really like your board games. Yeah, I don't know really anything about them, Ed, but yeah, I'll come over. After 2 months of doing this on a monthly basis, because I started to be careful about being around people, my wife said, no more people in the house. We have a tiny house and there were too many people coming over on a Sunday. Because people want to have fun, people want to share passions, people want to do things which are interesting. And these people, yeah, they chose to come. That was great. So we connected up with a local charity and said, oh, can we do it at this church hall? And they said, yeah, of course. And then we ran it for 5 years up until COVID hit. Now we're trying to start it up again. People from all walks of life, old, young, girls, boys, mums, dads, aunties, uncles, come along, sit down for 3-4 hours, roll some dice, play some games, scream and shout at each other. I don't like things like Monopoly. They're kind of Christmas nightmare games, aren't they? But there are so many fun games out there about sort of guessing who's the baddie and sort of social deduction and just playing. And I think that's a good thing. And it didn't cost me any money. People chipped in to hire halls because it was a passion. And I had a huge anxiety at the time when I first started doing something like that. But it kind of led to what I do now. It kind of led to this thing about being okay with some of the nerdier or less interesting things that I thought at the time I had about me. But who's holding me back? No one was there going, Ed, you can't play board games. It was just me. I wasn't very well. That's okay. It was okay for me not to be very well. It was okay for me to recover. It was okay for me to use playing as part of my recovery. I have a stupid amount of board games now. People give me board games. I play board games as part of my work. Part of the drop-in, people go, Ed, you got a new board game? I go, yeah, come over, come see this. You've got to pretend to be a cat sitting in a tree and whistling or something. And they're like, whoa, that sounds great, well, amazing. And people like that. But I don't force it on people. They know where I am and they come into it. On a monthly basis, we'll do it online. On a monthly basis, we do it face-to-face. COVID safety rules, of course. And it continues to be a thing that I really like because it helps people change their environment. They're choosing to do something and they're choosing to be in a new environment. They're choosing to be around people that they don't necessarily know. These are all really, really good things. Not for a minute am I saying, go and play board games, but yeah, go and play board games. It's great. I suppose the key to mindfulness is offering ourselves an experience outside of our normal experiences day to day. If I have to wrap this up, embracing the moment that we're in, being aware that you're vulnerable, and that's okay. We probably won't have control over all the chaotic things that will happen tomorrow, but we can react and respond calmly and kindly to our own needs and the needs of others. So I could say, hey, download this app, listen to this white noise thing. There's a thing that you can put on your phone. There's a thing that costs you money, or you can go and do yoga, or you can do some meditation. You can do any of those things, but that kind of isn't the point of what I think mindfulness is about. It's embracing the moment. It's embracing who you are, what you can do. It's having a knowledge of what you eat, what you sleep, or how you sleep. It's a knowledge of not letting in things, screens, stimulants, trying to exercise, completing to-do lists, reading, writing. and 3 breaths. Breathing in, breathing out. First one you don't want to do. Second one you really don't want to do. And the third one is annoying because it helps you feel calmer. We're changing our mindset. We're feeling more calm. We're feeling more in control. So coming to the end of this, what on earth is mindfulness? Thanks for listening. I really appreciate your time. It's been a nice way of spending my afternoon, and it looks like it's got dark where you are. It's definitely got dark where I am.